Hi, welcome to Messier Mantra. I'm your host, Mike Messier. On this episode, we have a very special returning guest. Her name is Raeshelle Cooke.
Hi, Mike. Nice seeing you again.
Nice seeing you again, Raeshelle. We're going to start the show with one of your short films, and it's called Last Words. Why don't you tell us a little bit about it, and then we'll show the film.
So this film I shot with actress Dominique LaFleur, and this film is it was for Campus Movie Fest. It was shot in April, and it's basically just about box therapy. And in the film, I tell you what it is and how to properly go through box therapy. So I hope people like the creative art of the film.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
All right, let's check it out. Let's check out Last Words by Raeshelle Cooke on the Messier Mantra.
I'll always answer. I'll always pick up the phone for you. I respect what we have. I would never do that to you again. I'm your boyfriend. You're my girlfriend. So what if there's no pictures of us? Look, I appreciate everything you've been to me. You're wonderful.
Is that right?
What man wouldn't be lucky? You're great.
Wow, I'm speechless.
You knew I was working. It's your fault I don't want you anymore. 'Cause you called me. You deserve all of this. You knew I was working.
Didn't I build something?
You can't
What did I do to
expect to
deserve
have
all
a
of
big
this? What did I
relationship
do?
with me. You can't expect to build a relationship.
What did I do to
Don't ever
you?
call me again. I'm blocking your number.
Where does all
You
this
know
coming
what?
from?
Let's just forget about everything then. Forget about everything. Yeah, forget about everything.
I'm so confused right now. Like, why,
You can't
why
expect
are
to
you
build a
doing
relationship when we don't even have simple communication. Forget it. I'm done. I'm blocking your number. Goodbye.
Good riddance.
Welcome back to Messier Mantra. I'm here with filmmaker Raeshelle Cooke. Raeshelle, let's shake hands again. So, working with the film Last Words. Now, for our audience members that maybe have never made a short film, maybe they want to get into film, can you take us through the process a little bit of how you did this? Like, where do you start?
Well, first it starts with the idea, and obviously the idea. I mean, you know, you need to have some inspiration behind it. I had plenty of inspiration behind that, and after I had the inspiration, I was like, I have to do this film. I really want to send it to Campus Movie Festival. So then I started writing the film, but actually. the important thing is it was also inspired by a Drake song called Madonna. And a lot of my filmmaking is inspired by music that I
Yes.
love. So it's actually a different process. I actually write for the music, and I look for music first to inspire my writing. And then after I have the music and have the script, because I write, you write the script, then you shoot it, you get your actresses, your actors, the location, and then I edited it, synced it to the music, did the voiceovers, and it was in the can after that. And after I submitted to Campus Movie Festival, it was a finalist. It was a good creative process.
Such a succinct answer. And this process, did it take weeks, months, days for this particular film? Because I know you've done several, but in this particular piece, Last Words, was it kind of from writing the script to when you finished editing? About what time frame would that be?
Since I did this for Campus Movie Festival, you have to shoot it within a week. So I actually shot it in 2 days during a weekend. So it was like one full day with Dominique, and then the next day I edited it.
Okay.
And then I had written it the month before. So yeah, so I would say like 2 days to a week. And like that's how long it took.
Okay. And when the actress Dominique Lafleur, she does a very convincing performance of someone who's kind of angry, in a bad state of mind. How did you work with your actress into kind of building her up?
Well, I know Dominique because we had worked together on my next film that's coming out sometime around January. So we got to spend some time before that, before we even did that film, to talk and things like that. And we get along really well. It was really easy getting to know her and talking to her about myself and my experiences. And she talked about herself as well and her experiences, and then just over that time, we had gotten to know each other.
Yes.
So I think it really helped that I knew what buttons to push.
Okay.
Because I know, I would say that it was a really funny set, just thinking about. I definitely knew what buttons to push. Just thinking about her experiences and then trying to, I guess, reference it. And then it was pretty funny, but yeah, she responded really well to it. It really allowed her to get angry and really be what that part needed.
So when she's, to be exact, she's scratching up the box, tearing into the box, are you in real time off camera kind of yelling out instructions or giving her inspiration?
Yeah, I was. That's usually what I do when I direct.
Mm-hmm.
The first few films that I've done, I feel I talk too much. So
Okay.
the last two films, Last Words and sometime around January, I learned I need to shut up and let them act
Right.
and talk less. But in this film, I really wanted to just be like, look at what he did to you. Like, you really need to just get in that box. He did this, he did that. And then it started like really getting into the personal, and just saying he did. And then she really got really angry. So it was just a great experience. It was powerful.
Now, are you using, like a too personal with Dominique's life, of course, but as this camaraderie is built between director and actor, are you actually using like real situations from her life to kind of push those buttons? Use that term.
During this set, I was, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and she's okay with that, yeah.
Yeah, she was. I didn't get too personal.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, you make it general, but you word it in a way that relates back to them.
Right.
So I make my wording general, but it's always going to relate back to her so that she can really get into that angry mindset and that emotion, really get there.
Yeah, it comes across with her Because that's tough, even in acting where there's not so much dialogue, but the physical action of tearing into the box and the box therapy, it has to really, the intention of the arm, the wrist, the hand, you know, the pen jabbing into the box, it has to be there. It has to be pointed, so to speak, in order to be effective.
Yeah, and that was one of my favorite parts of the film, other than the music, because I love music so much. But my favorite parts of the film was hearing that box break, you know, hearing the marker punch into the box. It was hearing those noises, hearing her grunt, and because my films are based on emotion. All of my films are based on that raw emotion, and that was just great. You know, hearing her emotion, hearing the box break down, you know, and that's how you go through box therapy. You write it out. You could be going through anything. Maybe your house got caught on fire. Like I said in the beginning of the credits, it could be a house fire, or you could have gotten with someone who was a complete jerk and you had no idea and it was too late. It could have been anything. So you write it down on the box, you break the box down, and then you put the box to good use after. So I thought it was just great.
Have you done box therapy yourself? This invention you came up with?
No, not before. Not before this film. This was the first time. I did have to do the box therapy to do the film.
Okay.
So all that writing the box is mine. I wrote down everything. I'm not going to get into the personal, but everything that you see in the film is real.
Okay.
The writing on the box, and of course it was very therapeutic. This was months ago. I'm in a totally different place, so that's totally fine. But writing on the box, and all the clothing you see in the box is real.
Okay.
It has a story behind it. The laptop has a story behind it. Everything you see is real. So I just want my films to be a real emotional experience. So
who are some of your heroes of filmmaking, people that you look up to? Do you have anyone like that?
I was actually thinking about this morning because I knew you would ask me that, and I'm horrible with names, so I really, I would say
Or
Tyler,
films. Yeah, go ahead.
Tyler Perry.
Sure.
I know he gets a lot of flack because he plays this, black woman who's kind of silly or whatever. But honestly, she's based on someone we know in real life, so whatever. Let's not get mad. That's our grandma. That's our aunt. So I totally loved what Tyler Perry does.
Yeah.
He went through a whole bunch of crap in his life. He went through abuse, and then he wanted to do a play when he got older. He stuck with it, and now he's like one of the richest black people in Hollywood.
Right.
It's kind of like my background. I grew up in a similar situation. I'm a filmmaker now. I'm sticking with it. He's totally my inspiration, and John Singleton's very he's
Boys
very
in the Hood,
talented.
was that John? Yeah.
Very talented. I watched a mini documentary on how Boys in the Hood and Baby Boy came to be.
Yeah.
Very, very talented man. And I also like Spike Lee as well.
Oh yeah, Spike Lee's great.
Yeah.
What are some of your favorite films by Spike Lee?
I like Do the Right Thing. I love that movie. I wrote a paper on it back in college.
Okay.
Kind of sounds like back in college. That was a few months ago. And I really like Higher Learning as well. And he's actually got a new film coming out called Chirac, I believe. Chirac. So he gets some controversy with the way that he is in his films. I'm going to go see that because he's basically just acknowledging everything that's going on in Chicago. Let's acknowledge all the tragedy in everywhere. There's a bunch of tragedy, especially in Chicago. Let's acknowledge that. People don't want to acknowledge that. They want to say, "But what is this?" But I'm gonna go see the film and find out what's going on in Chicago.
Tell me more about it, because I don't. I'll claim ignorance on this one.
Well, that's actually about all I know. I need to look up when exactly it comes out, but I believe he did a Kickstarter campaign on it, and
Okay.
when he talked about like just the name, it's like, why would you name a film that? And I can understand why people would take offense to it, but then you have to look at the other side of it. Like, there's a lot of crap going on in Chicago that we're not talking about, you know. And like, let's talk about it. Let's make everybody aware that this is what these people in Chicago are going through, and that's his side of it. So, you know, there are two sides of it. I need to find out more about it, if it's like more fictional or more documentary. But that should be coming out soon. And
Okay. When did you, was there an epiphany, Raeshelle, that you said, gee, I'd like to, not gee, but I'd like to get, gee, I'd like to, was there a moment when you said, I'd like to get into films, like or was there a period of events, high school, or maybe you're younger, that you said the film bug, so to speak, got into your system?
Well, I think that I'm actually not a movie buff like a lot of people in the industry is. I'm more of a music person.
Okay.
But since I can't play any instruments, I do films to show my love of music. So I think growing up, there were some films that I really, really loved when I was a kid that has stuck with me now, like The Breakfast Club and Grease. And you know, I love them so much that it probably had an effect in some way in me, you know, becoming creative. It started more so with my love of animation, though.
Okay.
I started drawing and stuff with my brother. You know, it was kind of like a release and escape for us at that time. So we were drawing a lot and we watched a lot of cartoons. It's like story in general is really fascinating to me. I love story in general. So,
Check it out right here on Messier
so
Mantra.
I think that, you know, story in general, it definitely goes well with film, you know?
Right. Because all films are stories,
Yeah.
although not all stories are films.
Yeah.
So, talk about your love of animation, because I know a little bit about that from off camera, but for the audience, what are some of the animators or animations that you enjoy the most?
I love the, I wish I could pronounce his last name. Well, he does the film Spirited Away,
Okay.
Ponyo, Princess Mononoke, you know, just those films. His name is like Hayao Miyazaki, something like that.
Okay, yeah.
So like I love him. You know, I love him as an illustrator, as an animator. I love his stories. They're brilliant. They're beautiful. And growing up, of course, I watched a lot of the other cartoons like Batman the Animated Series, X-Men the Animated Series, Justice League, Dragon Ball Z, that stuff. So I really love the animated world. You know, it's not real, so there's like an opportunity for you to escape reality, especially if it's really bad.
Right.
And I think that's why I was really drawn to it as a kid, because it was just that opportunity to just forget about the things that were going on around you and just focus on this animated world, this, you know, even this a silly world like Looney Tunes. I grew up loving that as well. So
Sure.
I love animation, and I even wrote a cartoon series. I've discussed this a bunch already though, so I'm not going to get into that, but it's definitely it's definitely up there with my love of music.
I was going to say, with your love of music as a filmmaker, I think that's interesting and important, because a lot of filmmakers come at it from a visual, which is great. I mean, obviously, that's a big part of it. But you're kind of looking, and I've seen some of your work where the audio is just as important, because you kind of layer different levels of audio, whether it's the dialogue, the music. As we saw in this piece, Last Words, there's the voiceover, and then there's the music, you know, that are working together, and then also the real-time audio of the box getting scratched up.
Yeah.
So that's at least 3 layers of music, or sound, I should say, sound.
Yeah.
And is that something you approach when you're going into making this movie, like, okay, I want to have, you know, the sounds of the music, I want to have the sound of the You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you kind of like have that in your mind as you're writing this script.
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely. Because I have the music before, probably. Like in most cases, I have the music before I even write the script.
Right.
So I know exactly how the film's gonna sound, how I want it to sound, and voiceover, as you just said, that's definitely very important in a lot of my films. A lot of my films are narrated by voice or spoken word. So just the combination between music, whether it be inspired by Japanese music or inspired by hip hop, like Drake, like what we saw in Last Words, it's very important. And then you have the voiceover and I usually sync up the voiceover in certain parts of the song. So it's really not easy.
Right.
Like, some people might think, oh, you just throw it on and it's that easy. No, like the voiceovers are, synced up to certain parts of the song for a reason. And you're not consciously aware of it when you're watching it, but it's like subconscious. I don't know, like I think that it's effective, at least subconsciously, on some level.
I think so too.
It works on some level, and I know, like I know what it does. Certain parts of the music and where the voiceovers play during the music. It's definitely a real process, and it does take a certain talent to pull that off. So I'm really grateful to, just be a part of it and do it. So
when you're in the editing room, you're I'm just trying to imagine what you're doing. You're basically taking, and explain to the audience, that you're taking these levels, of the song, and you're basically manipulating them, interweaving them, so to speak, with the dialogue to produce the effect exactly the way you want it.
Well, so I put the soundtrack, the music track down on the timeline, and then I cut up the voiceovers. So
Right.
then I just place the voiceovers during certain parts of the song. So I don't need to do anything. Wait a minute, I did edit this song because I bought the rights to this song on Jamendo.com.
Okay.
And Taimano they composed the music. I emailed them afterwards, and they really appreciated, my love for their track, and they shared it. So, props to them. But I did edit the song, so sorry about that. Yeah, you're right. I definitely have to. Yeah, you cut up the song in a sound editing system, and then you put it down on the timeline. You cut up the voiceovers, and you put it during certain places of the song. Yeah, in a way that works.
And that's for people out there that are trying to get involved in film and making their own stuff. Like, that's a very time-consuming process, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
That just, you can be up all night for days.
It is.
And then, like, if you make one adjustment here, say you take this little snippet of dialogue and put it here, and you go, oh, wait a minute, that doesn't quite work with here. It's like writing a poem, like a long-form poem, or a painter with their painting. They might do something, and they go, they have to rework it based on what they've done.
Yeah, that's true. I think that is definitely difficult because usually in film you have different people doing different parts of the production and the post-production. So you have the sound designer, the sound editors. So if it's just you doing it, that's just a lot worse. But I enjoy it, though. I enjoy doing it. So
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. So what's before I ask that question, I want to ask another question. Familiar with your work that I am, you have one script that I've always liked, a feature-length script that you basically kind of guided me and a few other readers of it to listen to certain songs, mostly from the 70s, mid to late 70s, in correspondence with your script. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
It's called The Bridge.
The sun sets on Tokyo Bay, I believe.
Yeah.
Tokyo Bridge, yeah.
Tokyo Bridge script. And this script, I really like what you did. We're in a writer's group together, and you had written a feature-length script, about 100 pages, and you kind of instructed the people, like myself, a few of us that were reading the script, to give you some feedback, like, listen to this song, listen to this song, listen to this song. And I did it, and I really liked that. process, and I kind of gets inside your mind a little bit, like how you're inspired by this music. And some of the music that you're inspired by is from that, mid to late 70s era.
Yeah.
Which, not to reveal your age, but is a little before you were born. So how did you get inspired by or cultivate this love for music from that time frame?
Wow, that's a good question.
Well, I got one good question today.
I'm trying to remember how did I get into that era of music? Growing up, we were not by my mother. We were forced to listen to a certain kind of music, not by my mother, but then we started breaking away at a different type of music, listening to different stations when our father wasn't around.
Sure.
And it was the music of the 70s, like that rock music.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like a rebellious type of thing, and that was when I was a kid. And then, that was really, really new because we were only used to like a certain other type of music, and it was like, wow, what is this? Like, this is great.
Yeah.
And I can't even remember like when I really just started to love it, but I definitely love the music of the 70s, the style of the 70s. I know that it was no joke though with the drugs and stuff. I'm not endorsing that, but just the music, the style, the creativeness, even the 60s, even the 60s was great. I wasn't there.
No,
but,
you weren't.
but I'm sure it was great for
Yeah.
those people who were there. It just really appeals to me. It appeals to my personality. Because I have kind of like a mellow, just laid back personality, and they're I don't know, like they write a lot about love, and they were going. I posted this on one of my social media profiles, but another thing I love about that era. So like when you would see the 70s bands playing, like performing live on TV, you could look at them and you could tell that there was something going on in the group, you know?
Okay.
And it's not like it would be so obvious, but you could just tell just from their vibe and their energy, these people have an interesting story behind them. They have an interesting story to tell. So then you would research, and sure enough, these two are married and this girl is like cheating with this band.
Right. Fleetwood Mac is one of these bands.
Yeah, Fleetwood Mac and the Mamas and the Papas.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I just discovered them. I read too much though, because I just discovered some more things I didn't need to know about that group. But just in general, very intriguing bands, really intriguing stories.
Raeshelle, we're almost out of time. This interview has flown by, so we're going to have you on the next episode. Is there anything? We'll get to your mantra on the next episode. We're really almost out of time, but
Okay.
I want to thank you so much for sharing last words with us on this episode of Messier Mantra. We'll be back with you on another episode.
Okay, thanks for having me.
Thanks, Raeshelle. Thanks for watching this episode of Messier Mantra with our guest, Raeshelle Cooke. We'll see you next time on Messier Mantra.